If you're familiar with programming, you know all it takes is one letter to change everything. Apparently, it's the same in the world of monitors too. Hey, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com. Today we're comparing two 4K 240Hz OLEDs from the ASUS ROG Swift lineup, the PG32UCDM and the PG32UCDP. No, that's not a mistake. One model code finishes with an M and the other with a P. So throughout this video, we'll just refer to them by the last letter of their names, M and P. But unlike their model names, there are actually quite a few differences between these two monitors. For example, the P model has a setting that boosts the refresh rate to 480Hz with a 1080p resolution, which the M model can't do. So what are the other differences, and which one should you get? Looking at the two monitors side by side, there really isn't much to tell them apart. They each have the same RGB lighting on the back and below the stand. Even their stands offer the same ergonomic adjustments, which are fairly easy to adjust. Another thing that's the exact same between the two is their inputs. There's a DisplayPort 1.4 input and two HDMI 2.1 ports, so they can each take full advantage of modern graphics cards and gaming consoles over HDMI. Besides that, they both have a USB hub with a USB-C port and a KVM switch, which are useful for connecting different devices to the monitors. While it's good to know about what's the same, there's one big difference you can see when looking at the monitors, and that's the screen coating. The M model has glossy coating, while the P model is semi-glossy, which is like a mix of pure matte and pure glossy coatings. Because of this, the P model diffuses light a bit more, so reflections are less mirror-like and the screen is a bit hazier. The image looks clearer on the M model, but reflections are much shinier. Regardless, they're both good if you want to use them in a room with a few lights around. However, it could be hard to properly see the screens if you place them opposite a sunny window. There's another thing to talk about here. Blacks look purple in bright rooms on the M model, even if the screen is off. This is because of its QD OLED panel, where the black levels raise with ambient light. The P model doesn't have the same issue with its W OLED panel. So if your gaming room is bright and you're watching dark content, the P model is better. While we're on the topic, let's talk about how bright these monitors get. The M model gets brighter in SDR as long as you have the uniform brightness setting off. But if you prefer turning that setting on to get more consistent brightness across different content, then the P model gets brighter. Regardless, the brightness is similar between the two, even in HDR. The P model actually gets a bit brighter with most content here. But on both displays, highlights pop against dark backgrounds thanks to their OLED panels with perfect contrast ratios. The one big difference when it comes to HDR is the color volume. The M model really takes the cake here because of its QD OLED panel. It displays a wider range of colors that are a lot more vivid. This isn't to say that the P model looks bad or anything in HDR, but bright colors just aren't as vivid. Another thing to know is that the M model supports Dolby Vision, which the P model doesn't. This is useful for watching or gaming with content in Dolby Vision, like on an Xbox. While we're on the topic of colors, let's quickly talk about the accuracy before calibration in SDR. They each come with a dedicated sRGB mode that's effective. The image looks accurate on each, but they aren't perfect either as they both have gamma issues. The M model has some white balance issues too, and while the accuracy is better on the P model, colors are slightly oversaturated. This means you need to calibrate them for the best accuracy. The last thing we'll talk about regarding picture quality is the text clarity. Since they both have a 4K resolution, text looks sharp, but the M model is at a disadvantage here. It has a triangular subpixel layout that results in some fringing around letters or at the top and bottom of windows. The P model doesn't have the same issue. Some people may not see the difference at all, but it's something to consider. Of course, the text clarity is worse in the 1080p mode of the P model. Now that we know what the differences are with the picture quality, let's talk about gaming. To start, there really isn't much of a difference in terms of pure performance. They both have a near instant response time for sharp motion at any refresh rate. Of course, the biggest difference comes down to their max refresh rates. The higher 480Hz refresh rate with a 1080p mode on the P model is useful for competitive gaming. But if you're comparing both with a 4K resolution, then they have the same 240Hz refresh rate. One advantage of using the 1080p mode on the P model is that it provides lower input lag at the max refresh rate, but the input lag is more similar between the two at lower refresh rates. Even though the P model is slightly better for this, it's hard to feel any differences. One thing we need to talk about when it comes to gaming is VRR Flicker. This is a common issue with OLEDs where there's distracting flicker in dark scenes with changing frame rates. These monitors are no exception. But here's the thing, the VRR flicker on the M model isn't as bad as on the P model. That said, the P model has an OLED anti-flicker setting that reduces the flicker by limiting the refresh rate range. This is useful if the flicker bothers you, but it also introduces stutter. Keep in mind that the M model doesn't have this setting at all. Alright, now that we know how they perform, which monitor should you get? Unlike those tests you stressed for in high school, there's no wrong answer here. Choosing one over the other really comes down to whether you want to use the 480Hz mode or not. If you want such a high refresh rate on an OLED monitor and versatility to play some games with a 4K resolution, then the PG32UCDP is the model for you. That said, if you don't need such versatility and are looking for a 4K 240Hz monitor, then the PG32UCDM is the better choice thanks to its better picture quality. It usually costs less too, so this is also something to consider when comparing the two. If you need something for more than gaming, like if you're planning on watching content, then the M model also has an advantage as the Dolby Vision support and the more vivid colors provide a better HDR viewing experience. But the P model is no slouch for HDR either, and you might prefer it if you want to use it in a bright room because the black levels don't raise like on the M model. One last thing we'll add is that they each compete against models from other brands that use the same panels. The ASUS displays tend to cost more, so if they're out of your budget, you can find more options with our recommendations and tools on our website. That's all for the comparison between the ASUS ROG Swift PG32UCDM and PG32UCDP. If you want more details on the monitors, check out our written reviews. The links are in the description below. Until next time, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. Ciao. But the P model is no slouch for HDR either, and you might prefer it.
Good run though.
Thanks.
You might prefer it.
Are no exception. But here's the thing, the VRR Flicker.
Oh.